Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Vignesh. I'm from the National Digital Library of India. And on behalf of the P.N. Panicker Foundation and the National Digital Library of India, we are happy to welcome you for this webinar on new dimensions in education. So in my system, it's 2:55. We will wait for 5 more minutes before we begin the session. So kindly bear with us. During this 5 minutes, I just wanted to play a small video about the P.N. Panicker Foundation's e-library initiative. So just give me few minutes. I will.
P.N. Panicker, a people's leader who is well known as the father of library and literacy movement in Kerala. Born on 1st March 1909, he started the Sanatana Dharma Vayanashala in his hometown Neelamperur, Alappuzha. Vaichu Valariga, read and grow is the slogan preached and practiced by P.N. Panicker. Panicker led the formation of Travancore Library Association in 1945 with 47 rural libraries. He succeeded in bringing 6,000 libraries under the Kerala Grandashala Sangam. This is one of the largest public library network in the world. Government of Kerala is observing 19th June as the Vayana Dinam, Reading Day, and 19th to 25th June as Vayana Varam, Reading Week. The P.N. Panicker Foundation is an offshoot initiative of KEDAS and was formed in remembrance of P.N. Panicker under the chairmanship of Justice V.R. Krishnaiyer. In furtherance of his mission, the foundation has developed programs like school reading clubs, total digital literacy, skill development, employability enhancement program, effective science communication, rural entrepreneurship development, organic farming, promotion of green jobs, etc. On 4 January 2014, the foundation launched the massive popular initiative of achieving 100% digital literacy in Kerala. Dr. Manmohan Singh, the then Prime Minister of India, inaugurated the scheme at Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. As of 31st March 2016, the foundation has made more than 3.25 lakh citizens digitally literate spread across 53 panchayats of Kerala. As a second stage of this initiative, P.N. Panicker Foundation is going to commence a program on digital libraries in the state.
Kerala can be rightly described as the land of public libraries.
Public libraries are the only public institution that offers free and unbiased access to knowledge resources.
എൻ്റെ കുട്ടിക്കാലം മുതലേ എനിക്ക് ഈ ഗ്രന്ഥശാലയായിട്ട് ബന്ധമുണ്ട്.
ഞാൻ 10 വർഷത്തോളമായി ലൈബ്രറിയിൽ വരാറുണ്ട്.
ഈ ലൈബ്രറി 1940 അതായത് 1940 സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്തത്.
ഈ ഗ്രന്ഥശാലയിലുള്ള അപൂർവങ്ങൾ ശേഖരങ്ങൾ അടങ്ങുന്ന മുറിയാണിത്. അതിൽ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ഹോർത്തൂസ് ഇൻഡിക്കൂസ് മലബാറിക്കസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന മഹത് ഗ്രന്ഥമാണ്.
മുമ്പ് ഈ ഗ്രന്ഥശാലയിൽ ബുക്കുകൾ എടുക്കാൻ ചുറ്റുപാടുള്ള ആൾക്കാരും ഒത്തിരി ആൾക്കാരുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഇന്ന് ഈ സമൂഹത്തിൽ വായനാശീലം വളരെ കുറവായിരിക്കുകയാണ്.
ഇന്നത്തെ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടർ യുഗത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു രീതിയും വരുമ്പോൾ നമുക്കിവിടെ ഒരുപാട് വായനക്കാരുടെ എണ്ണം കുറവായിട്ടാണ് വരുന്നത്.
എല്ലാവരും വായിക്കുന്നവരുണ്ട്. പത്രമായിരുന്നാലും ലേഖനങ്ങളായിരുന്നാലും എല്ലാവരും വായിക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവും. പക്ഷേ ഇതെല്ലാം ഫേസ്ബുക്കിൽ കൂടെ ആയി പോകുന്നു. മൊബൈൽ ഫോണുകളാണ് ഇന്ന് ആ സ്ഥാനം കയ്യേറിയിരിക്കുന്നത്.
People are more after purposeful reading, and here the internet has come in a big way.
Our public libraries need to transform to meet the changing requirements of our citizens.
With the result that the younger generation is more fond of e-reading rather than the conventional book reading. They have to give facilities for e-reading and they have to build up e-resources in their collection.
The relevance of India Public Library movement is today libraries have lost their luster. Hardly people go and utilize the resources that are available in the libraries. The books and the bookshelves are gathering dust. So it's very important to reposition the Indian public libraries, and that's where this program is aiming.
P.N. Panikkar Foundation, Indian Public Library Movement, കൈകോർത്ത് കേരളത്തിലെ 18 ലൈബ്രറികളെയാണ് ഡിജിറ്റൽ ലൈബ്രറികളായി മാറ്റുവാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. ഈ സാക്ഷരത നേടിയ ഏറ്റവും സാധാരണക്കാരൻ ഡിജിറ്റൽ ലൈബ്രറിയിൽ വന്ന് ലോകത്തിൽ ഇന്ന് ലഭ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാ വിവരങ്ങളും ശേഖരിക്കുവാനും അതിലൂടെ അവൻ്റെ അറിവിൻ്റെ വ്യാപ്തി ശക്തിപ്പെടുത്തുവാനും അതിലൂടെ അവൻ്റെ ജീവിതം കൂടുതൽ അർത്ഥപൂർണ്ണമാക്കുവാനും ലക്ഷ്യമിടുന്നു.
Okay, so that was a quick video of the digital library initiative of the P.N. Panikkar Foundation. So now I invite Shri N. Balagopalji to inaugurate this webinar, and today's resource person for this webinar is Shri B.S. Basi. Over to Balagopalji.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Vignesh. Today we are having a interaction with Mr. U.S. Basi. He is one of the veterans in Kerala. He initiated the computer manufacturing of computer in 1984. And then he has become one of the main man in making government of Kerala to start the Technopark in Trivandrum. At that time, Technopark, the development of Technopark, it was very rare, and Kerala had the privilege of having this Technopark because of people like Dr. Basi, who initiated this. He convinced the government to have a Technopark in Trivandrum so that knowledge-based industries can be put up there. And now he is one of the advocates of these knowledge-based industries and knowledge societies. I invite Dr. Vignesh, Dr. B.S. Basi to make a speech on new dimensions of education. Mr. Basi.
Friends, welcome to P.N. Panikkar Foundation. Starting from this June 19th, for 1 month, we are organizing a reading month celebrations throughout India. It was inaugurated by our Honorable Chief Minister of Kerala, Sri Pinarayi Vijayan, on June 19th, and followed by many discussions like this in the evenings and someday in the morning. Mr. Jalil, who is the Higher Education Minister, has participated, and also there are international experts who are participating in this. Now we are discussing about the new dimensions of education. Actually, I would like to present a very novel and new concept to you. As you know, COVID-19 has revolutionized education throughout the world. Today, students are not able to go to their classes, teachers are not able to attend to the regular classes, and the schools are not open. So, how to continue our education is the question. Many governments in the world, including all the state governments in India, they are starting the online education system. Kerala has right now about 42 lakh students are attending various type of classes through television, through mobile, through computers, and all the social media in our state. Fortunately for us, Kerala has a large density of computers and internet, and out of the 42 lakhs, around 2.5 lakhs students were lacking in the digital facilities, and we have supplied most of the students with computers and or televisions or associated gadgets, and classes are going on. But these type of classes are nothing similar to regular classroom conducted in Kerala or all over. It is only about half an hour classes followed by repeated social media projections, and the students are studying. But the condition of many other states in India are not as good as Kerala because they don't have this type of computer gadgets available. Moreover, in Kerala, there are about 80,000 schools where LCD projector and all the infrastructure for education has been organized. And also there is a very robust infrastructure in Kerala for the production of videos and also upgradation of computer-based education. But many other states and the union territories are lagging behind in many fields. All over the world, only 12.5% of the students have access to internet and technologies. As you're aware, African countries and many developing countries, underdeveloped countries, they are suffering because of the lack of digital inadequacy. Actually, if you talk about the digital literacy, digital knowledge and accessibility, we are growing into a undemocratic system of education in the world right now, because large number of students are out of the digital platform, and it is creating two types of students. One is digital haves and another is digital have-nots. Similarly, internet haves, internet have-nots, computer haves and computer have-nots, social media haves and have-nots. So this is a major issue that the world is facing today. The problem is we have to be democratic in our approach to education and governance. And unfortunately, these things are lacking throughout the world. And I think the governments and even the corporations who make a lot of money out of the sales of hardware and software for education, all these people are responsible. They have to give some support to the people who don't have all these facilities. In the United Nations Organization, UNESCO, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, etc., they have been talking about all these digital facilities and internet connection for the last almost 30 years. In fact, by millennium, during the millennium, because in the Millennium Development Goals of United Nations Organization, one of the major thrust was education, and it exhorted all the governments all over to invest in the internet infrastructure. In Kerala, we are now having a lot of investment in this field. As I told you earlier, about 80,000 schools are covered with all the modern facilities of computers, or projectors, and LCD projectors, and also all other associated facilities. Lakhs of teachers have been trained. But it is not the case with many other states and many other countries in the world. So it is in this context that we are talking about new dimensions of education. When we talk about the new dimensions of education, we have to definitely consider technology as an important point. If you look at the evolution of education from the Gurukula system in India, for even 2,000, 3,000 years ago, in the time of Veda and Upanishads, we had the Gurukula system. Then came the foreign invaders, including Persians, and Persia became the national language at one point. When the English came, they started English education. Lord Macaulay is the person who devised an education system for India, and we continue with that for so long. And if you look at the education evolved in development after the independence, the contribution of Rajiv Gandhi And the new educational policy, national policy on education, that has given a lot of thrust to the national education system as well as technology development, etc. Then came the Yashpal Commission. Yashpal Commission in the 90s, they came out with wonderful ideas, but they lacked practical vision as to how to implement it. Later on, many new policies have come. Right now, the government of India is also having a educational policy in the anvil, and we are moving ahead. It is at this point that we are talking about education. As you know, government of India has come out with a lot of schemes, National Digital Library, then you have NVTL, then you have Swayam Prabha, and various online channels, social media channels. Similarly, the satellite channels, now government is starting 12 channels to supply education, to provide education to first standard to 12th standard. These are happening in our country. But if you look at the evolution, as you are aware, in the system itself, there is something lacking. If you look at the international scenario, you have a lot of tools right now available, platforms available like Google Classroom, Google Meet, then Microsoft Teams. These are some of the tools, and you have Zoom, you have Cisco WebEx, you have BlueJeans. All these technologies are available. And for the broadcasting system, you have open broadcasting system today. A student sitting anywhere in the world can access any teacher in any part of the world through these type of systems. Teacher can sit in the US and take a class to a student in Hyderabad. A teacher in Madras can, Chennai can talk to a student in London or elsewhere, and they can conduct the classes. This opens a great opportunity for us. Because of all this technology and also platforms, a lot of courses are available online. Indira Gandhi Open University is providing number of distance education programs. Many universities in the country, they are also providing these facilities. All over the world, if you look at, there are many EDX. For example, in the United States, the initiative of federal government, under the initiative of federal government, about 21 universities joined together, including Harvard and Princeton and all those, one of the best universities in the United States. And they have started a platform called EDX. Similarly, you have Udacity and a number of such private multinational corporations providing education to the students all over the world. And also there are technology support. From Australia, you have a tool, you have a company called Moodle, which provides free access to free open source tools for creation of platforms. Many universities in Australia and elsewhere using this tool to develop a university online. So these are all good signs, and many courses are offered from, for example, Harvard University is providing their sophomore courses, their first year, second year courses mostly online, so that any student from anywhere in the world can access these materials at a very cheap cost and get a certification on maybe a short certification for 3 months up to 1 year, 2 years, like that. Some universities like Phoenix University and various other institutions, they are offering full-fledged MBAs, medical and paramedical courses. In medical and paramedical, not only online, but also they will provide the support systems and the practical facilities. Actually, in the emerging scenario, it is better to have a blended system of learning. Blended system means partly the conventional system and also partly the online education. So supplement the classroom education or the current university education system with the additional resources and additional technology from either from that university itself or from any university in the world. The advantage today is any teacher, the best brains in the world, the best brains in the world can provide their information, and the students all over the world all over the world, they can access this information. So there is an opportunity for people to access the best contents and best learning materials, and they can get certification and degrees, etc., etc. Oh, how much time now? We have covered how many minutes? 15 minutes. Right now we have covered 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, I was trying to give a bird's eye view of education, global education, statewide education, and state level education, and what is happening to technology, etc. And along with this technology, I would like to focus on a very important aspect today. Maybe some of you, many of you may not expect this type of elaboration or this type of exposition in such a talk about new dimensions of education. Because of my experience in the last almost more than 4 decades, and training experience of more than 600,000 students with the support of more than 1,000 faculty members, I came to certain conclusions about education. We are talking about providing the current education to the current education far and wide globally, so that students can acquire more knowledge and their future will be safe. But I just ask you some questions. Just think about it. Does the current education provide a safe future for our society, for our world, for the state, for the students, their families? Plainly, I will say no. The current education is not suitable for our society today. And I would also question the educators and education system of the world prevalent today. Today's world, what education you are providing? You are all educators, administrators, university, heads of universities, and maybe those who are interested in this. How this education developed? I'm asking a very straight question to all of you. What is the role of our generation in this society? Last generation gave some sort of education. We improved upon it. Lot of research happened, and then we are here. But what is the purpose of education? You know what Vivekananda said about education? Vivekananda said, education is the manifestation of the divinity already in man. Actually, are we bringing out the divinity in man through our education? No. What are we doing? You know, a girl, 13-year-old, was sent to, is abandoned in a forest, and this girl was brought up by the dogs and other animals. And you have been, we saw this girl barking and jumping like a dog. We have seen in the television and the other pictures. So the children will be coming up and growing the way we are giving them inputs. So is it a democratic or a very, very, what do you call it, very established or very researched or finalized education system? Nobody is going is like trying to look at it. They are only concerned about the current system, the ministers, the educational organizations, UNESCO, but they are not able to look at what type of people we are trying to develop. The companies want professionals to work for them, technologists to work for them. The governments need administrators to work for the government, and so on and so forth. And some people are interested in humanities, but what is happening is the interest of the students are not considered by the governments and educators and schools and colleges. They are interested in the interest of the governments, their requirement of staff, the corporations, their requirement of staff, private corporations, and various things. And only the brain is developed. That is the most pitiable part of the whole story. Actually, as I told you, Vivekananda said, divinity in man has to come out by providing some contents, A, B, C, D, all the alphabets, 1, 2, 3, 4, everything is all your inner capabilities coming out. Socrates, about 2,500 years ago, said, actually education, the purpose of education is creating a flame in the mind of the students and new generation and the people. And Socrates said, it is not your duty to put some contents into the vessel. What will happen to the vessel? A student is considered to be a vessel today, and you are giving some alphabets and some arithmetics and some information. And what happens if good information is given? There will be fragrance coming out of the vessel. Suppose you are giving bad materials, bad smell will come out. This bad smell is not coming out. That's why violence in the world. That's why not only violence. I'm talking about the suicide, criminal offense, criminal activities, sectarian strikes, wars in the world, in the name of religion, in the name of countries. What is this? Is it the imagination? Was it the imagination of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Mahatma Gandhi, Vivekananda, our Gurukula system, our Veda, Upanishad, Bible, Quran, Ramayana? Was it the ideals? Is it education? Who defined education? Nobody is thinking about it. When we talk about it, you just have to. Our minister is saying this. This is our system. Nobody has developed a system. It evolved because of the market pressures, and we are at this educational juncture. My dear friends, we have to be shameful about our education. This is so. When we are talking about new dimension of education, I would exhort all of you to think, get out of a slumber, and be awake, arise, and think about education. Otherwise, no meaning in these type of seminars and discussions, etc. And then we will be publishing some souvenirs. My dear, I am a revolutionary by nature. So what type of revolution we can bring to education is important. Why revolution? Because today, whatever ills that the society is facing is because of the education, because of the schools, because of the teachers. Of course, there are good things about it. I'm not denying that, but there are many side effects and bad things. My dear friends, coming to my experience, I'm telling you, you have to invoke the power of their subconscious mind along with the conscious mind while teaching the students. I don't know how many understood this. The power of subconscious mind. What are we giving? As a child evolves from the early ages, what happens? He or she, the small child is seeing a lot of things in their household, outside, and they take the photographs all. Their mind is one of the biggest cameras in the world. It can store millions and trillions, billions and trillions of information. All these informations are collected by the students, the children before the age of 4 or 5. Actually, mostly it happens before the age of 2 and up to 3. And then it evolves. And after that, the student go to school, college, etc. and acquire all these degrees. But the type of information that he is collecting and the knowledge he is acquiring at the early stage, from 0 to 6 months, 6 months to 1 year, 1 year to 1.5, to like that, every 6 months, you know, the information they have collected and the knowledge they have is far more than what they are knowing today. You are only talking about some books and reading and reproduction. The knowledge is far beyond all these inputs you are giving. Actually, the information stored in their mind is so much. But what happens through our logical education, our analytical education, is that we are filling that vessel, that mind, with a lot of material. That is okay. That material is okay. But in the process, a lot of logical mind is developing, and subconscious is blocked. This is one problem that we are facing today. Many psychologists and international experts have agreed to this point. Many research have already gone into these details, and they are telling the best brains, best minds of the world are produced because of the utilization of the subconscious mind also. So what is the subconscious mind? How to keep subconscious mind alive throughout their education? those who are getting the high degrees or contributing lot of things in the universe, in our world, they have access to their subconscious mind. Today, I am giving an example of Elon Musk. You know Elon Musk? Elon Musk sent his shuttle to the space station 2-3 weeks back, and he sent 2 Americans to the space station using his space shuttle. And he could imagine, even during his studies and his education in physics and economics and research, he went for research only 2-3 days, then he stopped the research. But he can imagine today he is planning to send 100 people in every flight to various satellites like Moon, Mars. He wants to set up a colony, and things are on. Such type of ideas comes from their deep mind. And our education should not kill such type of instinct in people, and they should be promoted. And actually our education system suppresses all this. Some inputs are given and they are asked to answer the questions and mug up everything and get a degree. This is not useful for the society. So let us, because we have access to a lot of technology today, we are talking about new dimensions. We are using it. We are using 5G. We are using artificial intelligence, big data, and various Internet of Things, various technologies for educating people. Education, a lot of investment is going to go into education. My dear friends, it is our duty, those of you present for today's meeting and their friends, we have to awaken the educators, the colleges, the schools, the universities, the ministers or the politicians, and tell them that when the public money is spent on this, you have to do a good work, and for which a lot of inputs and lot of changes are required. My dear friends, I am taking many students to their subconscious level. I have trained 600,000 students, and right from 1975 onwards. And in my classes, I tell them to focus on something. And how to focus? There is a process of focusing. Before starting any lesson or start reading anything, they have to open their mind. So all the stress and strain of their conscious mind has to go. Normally our brain works, conscious brain, because our conscious mind works in 14 to 35 hertz. The electrical impulses is the reason for the survival of the brain. If the electrical impulses are 0, you are dead. Brain death means no electrical signals. Here in the conscious mind, it works between 14 and 35 hertz. But this 13 and 45, 14 and 35 hertz, if goes to 35 hertz, etc., you will be highly strained. Lot of pressure and other problems. You know, the human beings, including the children, have stress and strain. And if you are able to ask them to study when they are stressed and strained, actually they cannot study. They will look at the book and then their mind will go somewhere else. It is because of the electrical impulses and very active conscious mind. But when you get up in the morning, the night, conscious mind is completely 0. Your conscious mind is not there. Only subconscious is working 24 hours, including the night. And they are making all right our heart, everything. So in the morning when you get up, you will be in the alpha stage. 14 to 35 hertz is beta stage. After a good night's sleep, from beta stage you will come to alpha stage. In alpha stage, you can learn, you can have ideas, you can write good poetry, you can, good poets and other people, even cultural activities. All these people, creative people, are using this early morning or whatever, whenever their brain is in alpha stage. So alpha stage, even people are finding out many inventions during alpha stage. Organic compounds. The scientists found out the structure of the compound when immediately after sleep. So this is what is happening. So we have to keep the students in alpha stage in classes. So I am not only giving some solutions. can we, I am trying to close this because we are almost covering 30 minutes. My question is, when the new dimension of education is coming up, with the new technology, new investment, new approaches, new classrooms, new teachers, I think the whole section of the people involved in education, including the administration of this, they have to apply their mind to give a very cool atmosphere for the students in the classes so that they can learn well. When they learn well, they can, they will create a better society. If you start teaching a student at the age of 5, another 20 years time, the world will be different. And the criminal offenses and various things, and the stress and strain, suicides, all those words, I hope it will slowly disappear. The objective of education is creating a better society. Without discussing that, any dimension of education or any amount of reading or writing or arithmetic is not meaningful. And this is my suggestions. I can give a lot of data or inputs or practical wisdom on this, but we don't have much time. And there are many people, I'm sure many people are waiting to ask questions. And this is a time for your questions. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentations. In fact, we have another 15 minutes for your presentation. If you feel like sharing few more inputs, you can do. Otherwise, we can take up some questions which have already come.
Mr. Vignesh, because I was told that it's a 30 minutes presentation, I stopped here. But when if the questions come, I can further supplement these points during the question and answer session.
Sure, sir. So there is a question from Mr. Rajesh RR. How to build a child's mind to excellent mind?
This question is how to build a child mind to an excellent mind. Actually, this is something which is not aware to anybody today. Yeah, Mr. Rajesh is asking this question. My question to Rajesh and all the participants is whether this question is being addressed by the governments and the educators and the schools and colleges and the education system today. I would say that's why Rajesh was forced to ask this question, that how we can develop the child. Actually, if you want my answer, the house, our home, our sweet home is the best place for the best education of the child. If you look at the children who got high aspiration, who grown into great personalities in the world, I think their child upbringing and the house atmosphere was very important. I think the parents should become ideals and they should become a model and give all the inputs to the child, because child is, whether they are giving inputs or not, child is observing whatever happens in the house. They are observing the father, the mother. Suppose the father and mother have a quarrel and the child observes that quarrel, and continuous quarrel means when they go to the school they will quarrel, and when they become a young man and they marry, their marriage will be spoiled because of the father and mother. Similarly, many, you know, all the interactions in the house or outside the house or in the schools, everything is affecting a child's mind. And when a lot of these negative emotions go into the child's mind, what happens is he is not able to use the positive mind. It creates, the mind is cluttered with all these ideas, and neurons create neural networks of this criminal or the negative emotions. And once the negative network is created, nothing that is set there, and no other part of the brain will start working. It will stop working. This is a problem. So I think if you are talking about, Mr. Rajesh, if you are talking about the early childhood, I think it is better that the house atmosphere has to be better. The parents should learn how to bring up the children, and they should be positive. They should exhibit love in front of the child. They should exhibit affection in front of the child. not to the child, even mother and father, father and children, father and grandfather and grandchildren. What is the affection and what is the love and what is the attachment, what is the empathy and what is the sympathy going there? And these people are imbibing their thought, and that is why when they come up, their habit is formed like this. And we cannot blame the children for this. In the school also, I think when they go to the school also, this will be continuing. But school atmosphere is also very important. Societal atmosphere is also important. Our educational scenario is important. Our environment is important. Our religions are important. Our politics is important. These things combined, everything put together, a mind, everything is put into a vessel, which is the mind of the student, which is mostly a conscious mind. And conscious mind is filled with this. Then because of that, the student is suffering throughout his life. And he is not able to go to the heart, go to the subconscious mind, think about good things. Always we are blaming the children, but they are not to be blamed. They are the best, because when they come to the world, they are virgins. Their brain is the best, but we are spoiling it. And that is the reason. I cannot talk much beyond this, but this is the initial, this subject which has to be dealt in depth. So thank you, Mr. Rajesh. We'll have interaction later on, even the same forum on this subject you are interested. Maybe there will be many questions. I can ask all the questions, answer. Okay.
So there is a question, I don't know, from Pranchal Bengani. What do you feel the most exciting or effective learning environment would be for a child?
Kanjal is asking a question. What will be the effective learning environment? Okay, that's a wonderful question. I think learning, actually, our classroom is not an environment. It is a stage, and there is a board, your bench and desk, etc. So the learning environment, the word learning environment put forward by Kanjal is very good, because you have to create an environment, and the components of environment you can always define. But if you look at Delhi schools today, you have something called happiness curriculum. Happiness curriculum in Delhi schools evolved by Arvind Kejriwal and his team of ministers, and is doing wonderfully well. And I think Trump, when Mr. Trump, American President Donald Trump came to India, his wife and a team of people went there and visited this. This is creating, retaining, creating happiness. Actually, there is no need of creating any happiness, because happiness is already in the children. The basic nature of children itself is happiness, and that happiness has to be retained. That should be kindled. That has to be encouraged. This is what we have to do. So we should not put a lot of strain into the brain of the children, and the teaching has also should not be an ordeal for the students. But they have to like, they have to participate, they have to improve. This is what education is all about. And we need, yeah, that is what is required. So there you can see in a classroom, in a corner there is some computer, etc. It is not a conventional classroom. I am not talking about happiness curriculum, because I am not fully aware of what exactly happening there. According to my design of things, in a classroom, you should have a technology corner. Classroom should be slightly bigger, technology corner. There should be some reading libraries and books. There should be a discussion corner where if 5 students wanted to discuss something, they should be able to discuss there. There should be a projection facilities, etc. There should be also the tools and certain gadgets to kindle their interest in the scientific subject and various other subjects. So it should be a sort of teacher should become a facilitator, not a arbitrator or not a dictator. This is what is required. When I designed a similar classroom in the 2000s, I coined a word called, what is it called? It is knowledge manager. Because today, teachers cannot think they are the ultimate authority of any knowledge. Much more knowledge are available with the children at the tip of their finger. and they know better knowledge than many teachers. So if the teacher pretends that they know everything and try to impose it on the children, that is the worst thing that can happen to any education in any country, to any student. Today, their interest has to be kindled, and the manager of the knowledge, teacher is the manager of the knowledge, and the teacher has to work hard to demonstrate things, to understand the student people, take them at ease, keep their happiness mind intact, and provide all the facilities, encourage them to discuss, brainstorm things, and I call it a quality circle teaching, quality circle. So by discussions, the quality improves, and it is shared among the people. And this is a very vast subject, which again I am suggesting, Mr. Kanjal, we can discuss it further, but teacher has to transform, schools should transform into places of knowledge sharing, knowledge enrichment, knowledge empowerment, and knowledge dissemination, not communication alone. Communication, one-sided communication is not the answer to education. Thank you.
So there is a question which almost 10-15 participants have asked.
15 participants have asked one question.
Almost the same question.
Almost, okay, very good, very good.
So the question is, how can we help the students if they are in depression? I don't know how.
Okay, I am a psychologist also. Okay. So I can, with my limited knowledge of psychology and electronic multimedia and communication, etc., I can try to answer this question. Actually, depression is the result of a mind or a brain where mind is cluttered with many things which they are not digesting, and they are not able to escape from the clutches of the conscious mind. If you don't understand the full implication of the conscious mind, I would tell you that this cluttered mind is whatever inputs we are giving. In the house, you have a lot of problems. In the school, they have a lot of problems. All these problems, they are not able to solve. They are not able to take a position on that. They find that they are not able to excel others, because parents always say you have to excel. Your mark is less. They say you got only 95 marks. Your friend got 99 marks. These type of comments from the parents, you can understand. What about the parent? When this parent who is asking for 99, when this parent was in school, how many marks he got? Maybe 60 or 55. And now he wants his son to be 99. So these type of inputs, when it is given to the children, they cannot digest it. Moreover, their ability to expand their mind, their ability to utilize their brain in full capacity is diminished because of education. I would say depression is also one of the outputs of the education system. Education makes children depressed. Why? So because education is filling the vessel, the brain, especially conscious mind is only 10%. 10% of the mind is conscious mind. And when they are filling the 10% with a lot of unnecessary negative emotions and thoughts and feelings and emotions, children become restless. They don't know how to answer. They can use only 10% of the brain because 90% is wasted. There is a critical mind filter between conscious mind and subconscious mind. That critical mind or filter, conscious mind is creating. Conscious mind, how it creates? We are creating a critical mind filter because of our religious, our environmental, educational, and social logics. So we are giving, actually, when the student is able to get rid of his conscious mind and use, when it is having access to the subconscious mind, I'm sure his depression will go away. I am not giving you a medical advice, or that the psychiatrist will do it. But as a psychologist, I can give you some inputs that it is relaxing, making the son or daughter relax is first step. And unfortunately, the parents are and teachers are unable to, incapable of using their capability to make the students at ease and mind at ease, so that their electroencephalogram, which is at 14 to 35 hertz in the conscious mind, is coming back to 14 to 7, 4 to 7, from 14 to 35 beta stage. If the student is able to calm down and come to 7 to 14, you are in alpha stage and beta alpha stage. You will come back from beta stage to alpha stage. At that time, subconscious mind, 90% of your brain will come work along with the 10%. So whatever depression is created by the 10% of the brain, because of the input you have given and the society have given and the religions have given and the teachers have given, can be spread into the 90%, so that the 100% brain can, when he start using the 100% brain, then his depression will go away. Thank you. If you want to explain further, I can do it, because there are 15 people. Subsidiary question can be asked. Anybody want to ask further questions on that? I will answer that. Okay, thank you.
There is already one more question similar to this. In this COVID-19, it's a pandemic situation, when the students are not able to personally meet their teachers or friends, they're like at home. So this also adds up to their depressed mind. So how do you help in that kind of a situation? So that's an additional supplementary question that has come.
Actually, the question is, for the information of all the people, the question is that the COVID-19 students are at home, they are having a lot of stress and strain, the space is limited. At this point, this type of behavior, then depression. You need not say it is depression, because this is a doctor's defined word for a particular condition of the mind, which is which they call it depression, and they give a lot of medicines also. But I don't know whether that is the right solution. I think if they are real having problem, they have to get the help of the counselors, because parents and the family members, when they are trying to calm down this person and try to change their mind or get them out of this, they will try to resist or retort, or whatever they say, they will not listen. This is the habit of our conscious mind. That is because of the neuro-associated conditioning, because of scientific, the neural network, the neurons are joining together. You know, for some of you who are biology graduates will know, the neurons join together using their tentacles, that is the axons and dendrites. And one neuron has 40,000 such dendrites or axons. So one neuron can join with 40,000 other neurons. Like that, millions of neurons are joining together and creating a network. And you are already inside that network. The student who is suffering from this network is called, is in depression or whatever. But this is a condition which anybody can have, not only the student, even the parents talking about they will also have depression at times. And what is required is, it is a neurological condition created by the past mind. And getting rid of the past is one. Past is good only for developing today and tomorrow. But you should not suffer from the past. This is what Buddha also said. All your suffering is because of your thoughts and your past. We are all suffering. Children are also suffering. Parents are also suffering because of their thoughts of the past. They have to come to, you know, there is a book from world-renowned spiritual scientist. About 20 million copies are sold. The Power of Now. The Power of Now talk about now. Question is, are we in the present? The ability of a teacher or a parent to console a student or a ward, a child, is restricted because they are in the past. When they are trying to address a new problem, their past mind works and try to solve the problem of the child. That will never happen. The parent can be in the present. He can solve the problem better. That apart, even the child himself is full of thoughts and emotions and feelings, and his neurological system, the network, is not allowing anything else to be thought. For example, a boy wants to smoke. You ask him not to smoke. He will not listen. And he is also thinking not to smoke. I don't want to smoke. I will not smoke. I am promising I will not smoke. But when you say smoke, actually his subconscious mind, his bigger mind, get the picture of a cigarette or whatever he is smoking. And that picture goes to the mind. When the picture goes to the because visualization, subconscious mind can understand only two languages. One is vision, visualization, and images. Images and emotions. Images and emotions. So when you say don't smoke, he wants to smoke immediately. When he thinks I don't want to smoke, he wants to smoke immediately. So the best way to get rid of smoking is not to think about smoking, but think about better things. Can the parent in the house make a situation where the child is interested in that? Occasionally he wants to see a film. Let him see a film so that he is brought back to the normal. Then you give him some inputs, some interest in it. Maybe he is interested in painting. Give some opportunity to paint. Maybe he is interested in chess. And if you also know chess, so his mind has to be relaxed before he is brought back from the depression. So I think it is a very long subject. We have to train him to. We have to train him to use the subconscious mind also. Remove the critical mind filter in between conscious mind and subconscious mind. Occasionally, he should be encouraged to go to the alpha stage from beta stage of stress. Alpha stage is 7 to 14. When you are sleeping, it is 4 to 7. So it is between sleep and awakening stage. You have this alpha stage. And if he is able to go to alpha stage and imagine things, dream about things, he will be better. So you create an opportunity for him to do it by providing things which are interesting to him, which are positive for him. Okay. Now 4 o'clock, another 6 minutes more, I think, Ganesh. Okay. Yeah.
So there is.
Yeah.
So we have 8 more minutes for.
8 minutes more. If you want to make my answers brief, I can do it.
Yeah. Couple of more questions. So far we have spoken about the students, and you mentioned about happiness curriculum for children.
No.
But one of the critical person in the environment is the teacher. What about the happiness of the teacher? So that is an important question from one of the participants.
Yeah. Right. Actually, when you talk about new paradigm in education, because when you are talking about new dimension, it is not one factor alone. In the initial part of my talk, I was talking about various things like Zoom meeting, internet and technology, artificial intelligence, and Microsoft Teams and Google, and various things, all technology related things. And then we talked about teachers and students. So the shift in the, if the education system has to escape from the current scenario, the most important thing is this is an overall revolution which has to take place. The revolution has to take place in the minds of the educational administrators and the political leaders and the other industry experts and others. So we cannot really say students are like this. Why don't we change the teachers also? Teachers will also change. But what about the political leaders? What is their knowledge of education? What about the systems and the research happening in the world? UNESCO is doing something. They had Millennium Development Goals which has to be achieved by 2000. At least part of it, whether they have achieved or not. And now they are talking about sustaining development goals which will go for many years. So here, the problem is not from the micro level or the grassroots level. Grassroots level, yes, a lot of things has to be done. But overall, it has to take place at both levels, from the macro level as well as the micro level. Then it will come together and a solution will emerge. Asking the basic question we are asking, the question is about teachers, isn't it? Teachers, yes, yeah. Teachers, we are talking about teachers. The same problem, teachers are also the victims of the same problem, same situation, same environment, same social structure, same religious structure, same political structure. We cannot escape, we can say teachers are different. For the last, maybe a teacher will become a teacher at the age of 25 or whatever, goes up to 60, 70. This period, their deep-rooted thoughts and beliefs and value system and attitudes of the teachers are there in this conscious mind. His brain network or her brain network is completely filled with all type of emotions, feelings, concepts, perceptions. All these things are in a way limiting their ability to tackle the classes. According to me, teachers and students should undergo a rapid transformation. This rapid transformation is conscious mind to subconscious mind, or using the full brain for teaching and study. Full brain means, along with conscious mind, another 90% adding subconscious mind. But the problem here is this going from beta stage to alpha stage, conscious to subconscious mind, cannot be taught by anybody. It cannot be understood by anybody. You can only practice it. Teaching is okay. So this is a practice. In our Gurukula system or similar systems around the world, what is happening in the education? You have Krishnamurti schools all over the world, in London, in Rishi Valley, in various places. He used his spiritual wisdom in the education process. Thousands of people who came out of that schools from Rishi Valley in Andhra Pradesh near Chennai, there are very creative people, many film directors, many actors. So how come only those people are becoming creative? So the teachers, the type of training given to teachers for B.Ed or M.Ed or PhD, this is only some ways of improving their conscious mind and creating a network and becoming a slave of that. A teacher should be a slave of his own mind. The mind, just like he has created his body by eating food and various items, he has created his mind because of a lot of inputs from the schools and colleges and books and newspapers, etc. He should get rid of, he should not suffer from that problem, that network. He should come out of those networks and be independent. He should be free. A free teacher a free and democratic teacher can only be a best teacher. So I will exhort all the teachers to be free and democratic. I will exhort all of them to be happy. They should get rid of their negative emotion, not only about the students, all the negative emotions in their house, in the society, with others, their peers. Should go out. Otherwise, he is not a good teacher. He has to be positive. He has to be happy. He should have sympathy and empathy for the students. Then automatically this comes. In my concept of this knowledge manager, students, the teachers become the manager of happiness, the manager of emotions, the manager of technology, the manager of whatever we are talking, manager of mind. Then the teacher can become a teacher. Whether the question is whether the teachers are sincere or not, or whether who are advocating about change of the teachers, are they sincere about it? They are sincere, they can change themselves first, and then they can change the teachers. They can change the students. They can change the world. This is the only the change will happen inside us. Then only we can change others.
Sir,
Thank
one last question.
Last question. Okay.
Yes, last question. So there is
Okay.
this question is from Ms. Bindu Chawla, and
Oh.
it's a very interesting question. Her question
Okay.
is: so far in the last couple of months, we have gone through during this pandemic, we have gone to this digital learning space.
Okay. Okay.
But what will happen after post-COVID? When the schools open, do we have to take a U-turn back to the normal classroom? How are we going to manage it? So that's
Okay, very interesting question. The question is, in the COVID era, today we are using all the technology online, Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever, open broadcasting system or whatever. But after that, what will happen? Actually speaking, this online education has not evolved just now. Every country, all over the world, for the last almost 30 years, this is evolving in one fashion or other. Many universities in US, like Phoenix University, started MBA courses as early as early 90s they started. So it so happened that because of the COVID, whatever infrastructure, whatever technology, whatever expertise, whatever software is available with people, they are using. For example, Kerala, because we have evolved over a period of time, we have lot of education infrastructure, even in the schools, government schools and private schools, we have all the projector, various technologies. Teachers are trained, and we have a Victorious channel where television broadcasting is being done. Even national level also television broadcasting and other things are happening. But because also there is separate departments for production, separate department for educational research, because of that we could implement it here. But after this, even in Kerala, the government is telling this is only a temporary phase. After that, we will go back to the classroom mode. But I'm telling you, whether in Kerala or otherwise, the spirit of online learning and the distance learning, e-learning, etc., will continue. Whatever experience they are gaining during this period, in Kerala, state governments, central government, or international organizations, they will put it into the education system. Education system will be enriched with the additional inputs. I was talking about a classroom of in a classroom you have in a corner you have electronic gadgets and software and tools and projection screens, everything. In another corner you have the library and various new knowledge, and you have a lot of discussions, project brainstorming sessions, quality circles. So I think in the emerging scenario, classroom, if we are able to go back to the classroom in the near future, which I am afraid, maybe at least by 2021, early 2021, we may be able to go back to the school system, maybe if the antivirus tablets, etc. is found out. But what is going to happen is, here a blended way of learning is going to exist. Post-COVID is blended way of learning. No classroom alone, no online alone. Classroom education and the online education will be combined. This all combined means there will be more gadgets in the school. Students will have more gadgets at home. There will be more software, more networking, more inputs. So another important point which we are going to problem we are going to face is students are going to be more intelligent than the teachers. So this problem is going to put up a lot of challenges to the teachers. Teachers are going to face, they have to face the music. They have to work at home. After going home, they have to work many hours before next day they are preparing for the classes. This is happening even now. So the teachers will find their jobs very stressful. So we have to make the teachers more stress-free. For making them stress-free, I think we need to give them more motivation, more financial incentives. Along with that, we have to give them the experience of full brain utilization, experience of subconscious utilization, subconscious full mind utilization, subconscious of bringing out the creativity in them, inputs them. These are the efforts which we have to take. Anyway, the post-COVID, the education has going to be brighter, better, and best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. I think I enjoyed it personally. I think
Okay,
many of the
thank you,
participants.
Vignesh. You
Thank
are
you, sir.
acknowledging that he enjoyed very much.
Yes,
Okay,
I am
okay,
sure
okay.
many
We
of
will
the
have more
participants.
sessions. Okay, this is
Sure.
all coming out of me, not because of preparation, because of my experience. It is coming from my inner voice. So that
Thank
is
you.
more important. And
That's very important.
also that voice will be seen in that voice and that impression the participants will get, because we are emotionally attached to what I am emotionally attached to what I say. This is what the educators and the teachers and the students have to do. They have to be emotionally attached to what they do. Then they are emotionally attached, they will go to the subconscious. Thank you.
Sure.
If
Thank you.
anybody want more inputs on subconscious learning, you can contact me through Mr. Balagopal, who is a veteran of this field. Okay, all the best. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. For all the participants, my humble request to you, I have already shared the URL form. I'm sharing it again. Feedback form URL. What you need to do is click on this URL. Go to that page. You fill your basic details. Suppose if you are not registered for this webinar through that our page, then you must first register yourself. Otherwise, it will return an error. Okay. So I'm just sharing the registration URL also. In case if you have not registered yourself, first register yourself from this URL, and then you submit the feedback form URL. Okay. And for people who have not submitted their feedback form, will not be given the certificate, and this entire process is automated. We don't have any control over this system. And this feedback form, after every webinar, it will be open only for 1 hour. And I can already see more than 150 people have downloaded certificate in the last 6 minutes. So if you are not doing your job properly, then don't come back and put it in the chat message that you have not got the copy. We are not sending it to anyone. You have to go to the corresponding webinar page. There is a button called feedback. Just click. Suppose if you have not registered, first you register yourself for the webinar and then click on the feedback form. Then you will be able to fill the basic information about you and then submit the feedback form. Then you will get the certificate in the digital format. First, to take the screenshot of the feedback form. Okay. And then on the top, you will have an option to print. So click on that print. Suppose if you have a PDF printer, it's well and good. You will be getting a PDF file. Suppose if you don't have, kindly first install the file. There is a solution tool called Do PDF. Kindly install it and then download. I can clearly see 150 plus people have already downloaded. We are about 300 people. And please don't send an email saying that you have not received the certificate. I don't have any control over this. And don't put it in the next webinar window that you have not got the first webinar certificate, because we have sent a mail to all the participants of how to download their certificate. If you didn't even read your email, then don't come back and put this chat message that you have not downloaded your certificate, you have not got, you have not sent. I can't download it on behalf of you because it asks for basic information. Okay. So kindly don't come back to us complaining that you have not got the certificate for the first webinar. I can surely tell you 98% of the participants who attended the webinar have got the certificates, except very few cases where they have submitted that feedback form, but they couldn't take the screenshot of the certificate. That except that case, 98% of the people have downloaded the certificate. And for people who couldn't do it earlier, who don't check their emails and come back after 2 days, sorry, I don't have any control over it, because it's all computer driven system and we don't have much control over it. So kindly excuse me for this saying this very upright, and because you should be aware, once you submit the feedback form, the certificate is automatically generated. It's not Vignesh or it's not Mr. Balagopal who generates certificate. It's the computer which generates the certificate. Okay. So kindly excuse us for this. And once again, I humbly thank all of you for participating in this today's webinar. And if you have not registered, if it says that you have not registered, it means you have not registered. Okay. So kindly first register yourself from this webinar. So I'm just sending this URL for first registering yourself. First register yourself, and then you will be able to submit the feedback form. No, it will allow you to download, provided if you have a PDF printer. Otherwise, you just take a screenshot of the certificate. That also will do. Take a screenshot of the certificate. You can use it that also as the copy. Okay, so if there are not much questions, then I would like to end this webinar. And on Sunday, we have an interesting storytelling session by Mr. Vikram Sridhar, who is going to talk about, who is going to share stories from India. Okay, this is specifically for children, so kindly bring your children for this session, and that's going to be a joyful session on the Sunday evening from 5 to 6. So see you on Sunday evening by 5 to 6. Thank you. So I'm going to send one last time the URL for feedback form and also the registration form. So here goes the feedback form, and here is the webinar registration form. So I'm just giving you the registration form URL. We have not scheduled any webinar tomorrow. Day after tomorrow we have a webinar. Thank you, Renuji, for your humble appreciation. I'm deeply humbled by your appreciation. Sorry, we can't mail anybody certificate, Miss Monisha. This is a purely computer-driven system. Kindly submit your feedback. Once you submit the feedback, you will be able to download your certificate by yourself. We don't have any mechanism through which we can send you the certificate. So kindly excuse us from this. Yeah. So Ms. Poonam, there is no webinar scheduled for tomorrow, but on Sunday evening 5 to 6, we have a storytelling session for school children. So you can come back on Sunday, and you can also register for this Sunday webinar from this registration URL. So you can go to our, you can keep checking the webinar details from this URL. I'm just sharing this webinar page, which we, as we get new part like webinar confirmation, we keep updating it here. So all the participants, Miss Mamta, all the participants will get a participation certificate. Okay. Ms. Sridevi, this system is designed in such a way that this feedback form will be accepted. It can be submitted only within 24 hours. Okay. So suppose today is 26th. It was open till yesterday yesterday afternoon, but yesterday afternoon onwards, it's automatically closed. Even for today's session, it will be open only till tomorrow evening 4 o'clock. So it's only 24 hours and I can't do anything about it. So kindly download your certificate within 24 hours. And I can tell you as of now, like in the last 12 minutes, 280 people have downloaded a certificate. So it means the system is working and everybody is downloading it. If you don't have a printer, it's okay. Just take a screenshot of the certificate and then paste it in a Paint or Word and then use it as a certificate. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to end this webinar now. Once again, thank you for your kind participation.